I know that it's only 8:30 a.m., but I'm gonna need the birds outside to calm down. Hola, my beautiful lotus flowers. Welcome back or welcome to my channel. If you're into nerding out on everything astrology, spirituality, and self-transformation, this is the community for you. Today we're talking all about having the planet Mercury in the zodiac sign of Taurus, and what this means is at the exact moment you were born in your birth chart, the planet Mercury was moving through the zodiac constellation of Taurus. And if you're not quite sure what the planet Mercury even entails in astrology, I will have an introductory portion to Mercury, so be sure you're watching that before you watch the rest of the video. And if you're here because you think I'm talking about having sun sign in Taurus, I am not. Having Mercury in Taurus is completely different than sun sign in Taurus, so keep that in mind. We're going to start the video by talking about some general traits of somebody who has this placement. Then we're going to finish off the video with a couple empowering tips for anyone who has Mercury in Taurus, or if you know somebody who does, it might help you better enhance your partnership with them, your friendship, whatever it is. So be sure you stay tuned for that. For a brief introduction to the planet Mercury, in case you're not familiar with it. Mercury is considered the quote-unquote messenger planet in astrology, ruling over thought, communication, how information is mentally processed, our intellect, routines, and our mental instincts. Mercury is actually the ruler of two zodiac signs, both Gemini and Virgo. Gemini is an air sign and Virgo is an earth sign. Wherever Mercury is at in your natal chart will tell you how you express yourself in regards to what Mercury rules over, such as how you communicate, how you think, etc. But it is very important to pay attention to whether Mercury was retrograde at the time you were born, as this can definitely alter how you express your Mercury placement. And the way that you identify that is there will be a little RX symbol next to your planet. If you're looking at a birth chart that provides this information, you'll see a little retrograde symbol next to this planet symbol, and that will tell you if it was retrograde at the time you were born. This can manifest for so many different ways for so many different people, so I won't be talking about if the planet is retrograde, but a lot of times the traits I talk about, a lot of opposite traits can manifest for this person. Like, for example, say the Mercury placement usually makes the person really good at communication. Well, if it's retrograde, then there's potential that maybe you struggle a lot with communication instead. So keep that in mind. Now for the general traits of somebody who has Mercury in Taurus. Number 1, although this person may be naturally charming or alluring when they speak, this placement often has the most meaningful interactions and experiences when they are able to personally relate to that person/experience. If you didn't already know, Venus is the planet governing material comforts, our desires, and what we create in life. Because of this, Venus is very connected to the physical senses, as well as Taurus being an earth sign, connecting it even more to the tangible parts of our existence. So when we think of Venus, we really think of pampered goddess energy. So when it comes to the planet of communication and the mental process, Mercury, interacting with Venus, we have someone whose mental process is most optimal when they're in a setting where they feel at ease. On top of that, they also process things the best when they have either experienced it firsthand or they're able to find it relatable in some way. It's not that someone with this placement is just totally against unfamiliarity. It's not that, they're just going to completely reject anything that they can't, personally associate with. But it's just that being able to personally relate to something is definitely an ideal situation for them. With that being said, their communication style is being filtered through that Venus goddess-like energy as well. So it's not surprising if somebody who has Mercury in Taurus has some type of charm when they speak. And this charm may look very differently depending on the person's other placements, but with Mercury in Taurus, this charm could just be that they have a natural flirtatiousness. This can be present when Venus is present, or they have a nice voice in some way, an alluring voice, Or it could be the fact that this placement oftentimes tends to be very blunt. They don't tend to be very good at sugarcoating anything that they say. So some people might actually find their very blunt, straightforward nature to be pretty funny and charming in its own way as well.
Like the most discussed masturbating scene, it was like not your first time doing it in front of a camera, right? Like you had movies before.
Yeah.
Was it easier now to film something like that?
I don't know. There must be a part of me that wants to do it, I guess. It's not difficult at all.
How do you pass the time when you spend 2 months near a fishing village?
Well, there wasn't an enormous amount, but I found it kind of unusual. There were 2 pretty highly frequented sex shops.
2 sex shops?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a fisherman's village. I mean, are they just selling a lot of fisherman stuff?
In the sex shop?
Do you feel like your attitude towards women has changed since having daughters?
Nah, I still look at Pornhub and...
Number 2. This is definitely someone who goes all in with their own beliefs and decisions, and it's unlikely that anyone is going to be able to change their mind once they're committed. Taurus is a fixed sign, meaning that it's one of the signs that tends to have a more loyal yet possibly stubborn nature about them, and is probably a bit slower moving as well. With this fixed quality being channeled through the Mercury sign, this is a person that may take quite a while to reach a decision, but once they do, they are very, very sure of it and go full throttle with it, even if others oppose them. Because of this trait, it can often prove difficult to try and communicate or debate something with them. And this is where communication can start to be a little bit difficult potentially for somebody who has this placement, just because of the fact that 1, they may be 100% set in their ways once they have a full belief in something, or 2, it can also be the fact that fixed signs tend to have a pridefulness. Even if the Mercury in Taurus is listening and understanding the other perspective that they're hearing, it can sometimes be hard for a fixed sign to overcome the pride they feel to stick to what they know, or to stick to what they think they know, just out of pride, just out of wanting to be right, or whatever it is.
Yo, Taylor, I'm really happy for you. I'm gonna let you finish. But Beyonce had one of the best videos of all time. One of the best videos of all time.
Furthermore, this can be what makes it difficult for them to process how they actually feel about stuff too, and then therefore communicate that to other people, just because of the fact that pridefulness can hold ourselves back as well. It doesn't just hold back our relationships with others, but it can make it really hard for us to fully process and recognize our emotions and our thoughts that we're feeling. And this can also connect back to the previous point we talked about, where they need some type of familiarity or relatability in order to really be able to process something effectively and to be able to understand someone or an experience effectively. Now, this isn't all bad though. The beauty of this trait is definitely the fact that this makes them unbreakable and so persistent when it comes to their focus. They can have an amazing long-term focus on a goal, on a person, whatever it is they're setting their mind to. They are very mentally strong in that way. Number 3. These individuals are often thinking of how to build something for the long term. Taurus is one of the earth signs in astrology, so not only does this give it a stronger connection to the tangible aspects of the world, but it also makes Taurus more concerned with what they build or create in the tangible world. For Mercury and Taurus specifically, this person thinks of most things in terms of how they can build it for their long-term benefit, and if there is any authentic purpose behind it. For example, if they're applying to jobs, then they might think long and hard about which one has the most long-term benefits for them. With all the earth signs in astrology, we tend to see a pattern where practicality and stability are definitely at the forefront of what they do. So when it comes to Mercury in Taurus, practicality and stability will be at the forefront of their mind. It will be what really runs their decision making and the way that they think about situations. So as I mentioned in the introduction to Mercury, Mercury really governs over the way that we mentally process things as well. It's the way that we tend to come to conclusions. You know, it's our problem solving abilities, common sense, logic, all of that. So when it comes to Mercury in Taurus, every time that they're processing something, they will naturally tend to think of, okay, so if they're doing that, what am I getting? If they're doing that, what is my return? They tend to have a very return focused brain. So they aren't the type to really just give themselves away selflessly, which is a good thing. They're very good about making sure that they're not getting taken advantage of. And in this way, this can actually make this person pretty good at certain business ventures. They can have a very intelligent way of thinking about what they're going to get out of something business-wise, especially because, again, this is Venusian energy, and Venus is very much connected to the second house, to finances, money. Not to mention security is quite important to them as well. Again, being a very stable earth sign, being the fixed earth sign, they really, really want long-term stability and security. So again, that's going to play a huge factor in the way that they make decisions. But even though they have this very return-focused mindset, what am I getting out of this? You may think that they are too concerned with planning and the future, but that's actually not the case. The beauty about having Mercury in Taurus, and this being Mercury in the slower moving earth sign of Taurus, is that they tend to actually very much stay present in the moment. So Mercury tends to be a very fast, agile planet. Think of Hermes. Hermes is the god that is often associated with Mercury. So think of that quick moving, agile, small god that is associated with Mercury. And then you have Taurus, which is a slow moving earth sign. It's associated with the bull. It's an earth sign. It's fixed. Everything about that sign is slow. So when you put Mercury into Taurus, it forces Mercury to slow down a bit. So, you know, someone who has Mercury in Gemini, for example, first of all, Mercury rules Gemini. So having Mercury in Gemini, you're having double Mercury energy, and it can make this person's thought process very crazy, sporadic, all over the place, hard to focus, just a lot of movement in the mind. So when you have Mercury in a slower sign, a more stable, slow sign like Taurus, it forces Mercury to slow down, take a breath. And the beauty of that is this person not only has great focus, like I mentioned before, but it's also beautiful because they can stay very present. They very much realize that the reality of everything is that everything takes time, takes patience. It's going to take a lot of work, a lot of building. And even though they are thinking about the future return they're going to get from something, they are not discontent. They are not unhappy with the present moment. They know it's going to take time. They're not looking for instant gratification. And that is honestly a really powerful trait to have in the world, the very fast-paced world that we have today. So if you're a Mercury in Taurus, just know that this is something that is so beautiful about this placement. If you want to see more astrology and spirituality videos from me, because you're enjoying this one so far, be sure you don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss future videos like this one, and you let me know that you want future videos like this one. You can also check out my Patreon, where I have a weekly horoscopes, a monthly Q&A video, and much, much more. Number 4, this person may have a blunt, no-nonsense way of communicating with others. The symbol of Taurus is the bull, which represents a Taurus's often humble, unbothered, yet strong-headed nature. When we think of the bull, we can imagine an animal that calmly grazes and pretty much minds their business until provoked, in which they instantly turn into a powerful, deadly force. With this Mercury placement, the bull-like energy is being channeled into their communication style. This energy also reinforces their stubborn way of thinking that we mentioned above. And because of this, someone with this placement often communicates in a way that is straight to the point, clear, and potentially quite authoritative. Depending on who they're interacting with, others may find it quite funny or charming, whereas other people may quickly take offense as they don't tend to sugarcoat their words. However other people may be perceiving it, there's one thing that probably holds true for most people with this placement. This is not the person that you want to get into an argument with, into a debate with, especially if it's something that offends the Mercury in Taurus in some way, because that is when the bull's deadly, powerful force will come alive, but it'll come alive in their verbal usage. So don't get into an argument with this person if you can help it. But this is another reason that it's very important that this person feels at ease and comfortable and familiar with their surroundings. Because otherwise this can tend to be something that provokes the bull. And you know, if you know somebody with this placement, or you're trying to get to know someone who does, or if you have this placement yourself, then you know that it probably takes time for you to really get to know somebody, to really open up conversational wise with somebody, or it takes time for you to really open up to an environment. So if the person has not given the Mercury in Taurus time to open up and they're trying to like force them to, or if an environment is putting the Mercury in Taurus under pressure that they don't feel comfortable with yet, then it's likely that this placement that's what will provoke them. That's what will wake up the sleeping bull within them. On the other hand, if you have Mercury in Taurus and what I just said resonates with you, you also have to be aware of being too easily provoked just because you're uncomfortable. So this is something that others should somewhat respect, but it's also something that this placement should work on as well. But once again, it's this straightforward, strong-headed, bull-like nature that contributes even more to their amazing persistence and focus when it comes to any goals that they have in mind. Now for a couple of empowering tips for somebody who has Mercury in Taurus. Number 1, it's important that this sign works on building or creating something purposeful to them. Because we're placing Mercury in a sign that forces it to move slower than usual, this slows down the mental process of the Taurus Mercury individual. As a result, like we discussed earlier, this person will likely take a lot of time to reach decisions in their life. The potential downside to this tendency is that they may end up becoming too stagnant as a result. Again, Taurus may be one of the slowest signs in the zodiac, but they still feel most fulfilled when they are actively building or creating something for the long term. Whereas it's okay to take time with this process, becoming stagnant and never trying anything may be what leads to someone with this placement feeling depressed or unfulfilled. If you have this placement, it's probably natural for you to only go for something if you're able to go all in. If you can't completely just dive into the water, then most likely you tend to not even want to dip your toe in the water and test it for yourself. Sometimes though, you have to dip your toe into different waters to test the temperatures and see which one works for you. That's how you find out what path you do want to commit to and what you do want to get a return from in life. You know, that's another thing that can hold you back if you're not careful, is thinking of everything in terms of a return. Everything in life gives us some type of return, whether it's in knowledge, enlightenment, friendship, lessons, like whatever it is. Everything we go through in life is necessary for some reason. It's building our character for some reason. So keep that in mind when you're going forward, and just know that not everything is pointless just because you're not getting a return from it, or because you can't just completely dive headfirst all in from the get-go. So if you notice yourself having this mentality, or if you know somebody who has this mentality that has this placement, then start to encourage yourself to try new things, or encourage that person to try new things, even if they're a bit hesitant or unsure of it. Number 2, release the need to control everything around you. Tying closely into the previous point, people with this placement often have a really hard time with the idea of unpredictability or unfamiliarity, again, due to their concern with feeling comfortable with their surroundings. Of course, this may not be the case with everybody who has this placement. This whole video may not be the case for everybody who has this placement, but a lot of times this placement can be overindulgent in their own comfort zone, refusing to leave it for any reason. So if you're noticing yourself starting to feel a bit stagnant or unhappy, It can also have a lot to do with not stepping out of your comfort zone, not doing or learning anything new, and especially things that may contribute to your future that you don't know will contribute to your future. Again, going back to the previous point where I mentioned trying new things, not trying new things can also be because you are staying way too much in your own comfort zone. So become aware of when you need to force yourself to step outside of it, even a little bit. Baby steps is okay, but just recognize when you need to get out of your comfort zone a little bit, because this is how we grow in life and this is how we end up becoming our highest self. If you enjoyed this video or any of it resonated with you, then be sure you're hitting the like, subscribe, and the bell, and leave a comment down below if you're a Mercury in Taurus or if you know somebody who is. I'd love to know who's watching. And you can also head over to my Patreon if you haven't already, where I have weekly horoscopes, planetary readings, astrology calendars, monthly Q&A, a lot of things. And you can go to the LaBlue Lotus Facebook community, where we talk more about using astrology and spirituality for self-transformation. But if you want even more content and a more personal side of my journey, then you can head over to Instagram at Marisa LaBlue. And until I release a new video, you can watch these ones that will help you so much more on your astrological and spiritual journey. But until I see you in the next video, thank you so much again for being here. Adios.